Alright, so from here we're going to go ahead and take the tape off our wires. It's just a real easy rip and the painter's tape peels off. Just be mindful, keep your wires neat. And looking at the front of the pendant, I'm going to go ahead and separate the very first two wires in the stack by pulling them forward slightly. And then the two that are right behind them, I'm going to also isolate them and pull them forward. So you've kind of got the first four wires pulled forward. The two in front are inside and the two right behind them are on the outsides. And then back here we have three wires left on either side, on each side. So we'll just split them right down the middle. So here also you might just hang on to the neck of your pendant, because shifting all of these three wires all at once sometimes pulls the neck apart, the neck wrap there. So I'll just put my plier lightly there, and I'll take the three from the left hand side and I'll just bring it down to a nice soft horizontal line, and then I'll take the three from the other side and I'll do the same. It's kind of looking like that. Alright, so while all four of your wires are pulled up here, I like to go ahead and just put them into a straight line, get them all lined up together, and I'll take my Sharpie marker, put your neck wrap down where all 4 points meet, and then we'll measure from here 1 1/4 inch and draw a line across all 4 wires. And in the sample pendant, you'll notice that I have the scalloping going also up to the bail. So we do that by twisting the second pair of wires, not the very front ones, but the second ones. So if you want to do that, just pull those off to the side a little bit, and it's the same way. We'll twist up 1 1/4 inch. I'll use my chain nose plier, and I'll grip about half of that length very steady, and I'll just make a controlled turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. And then I'll do this opposite wire. Just get it where you can hold on to it. I grip it about midway. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. And then we can look to see where the little mark is. Actually probably 6 times, or you can twist a little bit back, you know, just that little segment there. I'll turn this one so that my mark is up top. It looks like I've got 1 or 2 more little twists to do at the end there, and that's pretty good there. So we'll just let those hang out. So we're going to go ahead and weave the bail. Should be looking about like that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and bend the middle of this bail and make kind of a diamond shape here. I guess you could have also marked the wire while we were measuring, but I just kind of eyeball the center of where this is. I like my bales, you know, about here, about a half an inch to the front. So I'll just hold it right there and make a very deliberate bend, bringing these two marks back to the center. If I look all the way down, then I'll do the same with these two. Just hold them side by side. Get them so they're not collapsing or colliding with the other two. And just right here in the center, just use my fingers and bring the two marks so that they cross the other two in the middle. And that gives you a pretty nice shape for a bale. I only weave the two inside wires, and then about midway, right about here, we'll stitch out and grab the twisted wire just once, and then we'll continue the weave. Okay, so just so get yourself set up in that way. The distance in the middle there is probably 1/4 of an inch from inside diameter to inside diameter, so not too big. Just keep your wires nice and neat, and then once you get the shape that you like, we'll turn these wires back out to horizontal. It seems a little messy to do it this way, but I just kind of put my pliers there, hold the space that you want open, and just pinch. The wires will come back to a vertical position for you, and then you can just put them side by side. Do a little jiggle with your hands and get them neat again. So just like that. It's easiest to weave these two wires in the middle by raising them slightly above the twisted ones. So once you get the shape that you like, just put a slight raise on those two front wires, and we'll pull out 3 feet of 28 gauge. Okay, so I changed my camera so you can get a close-up. So I have 3 feet of 28 gauge weaving wire, and I'll just anchor the first little half an inch or so down here and hold on to it while I work. So just by inserting the wire there and going around, you've got one complete 360-degree wrap. So we'll go one more time and then pass through the two wires that are not twisted. This is why you push these back a little bit, so that you have room to weave. And we'll just do our traditional figure 8. So I've come, you know, through and under the opposite wire. Then I'll go completely around and do a 360 on that frame wire. Then I'll pass back through the center and under the opposite wire, and I'll push this each weave back each time. So then I'll do a complete 360 around the lower frame wire, and then I'll pass through to the opposite side. Just take your time doing this weave. One complete turn, and then through the middle to the opposite side. It's more like 1.5. You're doing one complete turn, so that's actually the complete turn there, and then half is to come back up here, go through to the opposite side and under the opposite side. Okay? So just take your time and weave along with me. This is a slow weave, and about midway, when we reach about right here, will attach to the twisted wire. So for right now, don't worry about where they are other than, keep them back and out of your way. This weave takes a little bit of practice. And you're having to hold on to the whole pendant while we're weaving. And you want to make sure that, you're tight enough across there that you make a nice line, but not so tight that you're squishing, you don't want your two back wires to cross like that. You want to keep that space just even and consistent as you weave. So it'll get a little more difficult once we get to the wider part of this wire. But just on occasion, stop, straighten your wires, clean everything up if you need be, and take a real good look at your weave, and then keep going. I'm just using my thumbnail to hold each coil down as I weave. My coils are side by side, and they're not overlapping the previous one. So you don't want to be pulling up, you want to be pulling across. And you're not really pulling tightly more than, making sure you have a straight line and placing the wire right where we want it to be. So right about here, we can go ahead and attach the twisted wire. You don't need much of an attachment, just one wrap to kind of keep the frame and, the bail and the twisted wire together. You also want to stay within pattern in this weave. So I make sure that my weave is all nice and pushed back. I'm just using the very narrow teeth of my chain nose plier. I'm not squishing anything, I'm just using them to push the weave back. And then my next move would be to dive in and come underneath this other, opposite wire. So first, I'll just go through here. I'll come underneath the twisted wire. Then I will go only around the twisted wire. And I'm in position to pass under and over the opposite wire. Kind of changes your rhythm a little bit, and it drops that one weave a little bit. We'll do a 360 around this twisted wire down here. And then come back up to the top, do your 360 around here, and continue to weave in pattern. When you do this, just make sure that you keep this twisted wire just to the outside of your bail wire. I let mine kind of slide inward a little bit, so I'm trying to stay underneath the camera for you guys. So I'll just bring it back out a little bit. So kind of like that, and then continue to weave. And then I don't really attach again until I get down here, because you're going to weave all four of them together. So I just do that one to make sure that you probably actually don't even have to do that one. I pushed my twisted wire back behind there a little further than I wanted, so I'm just using my pliers to pull them forward. Okay, so now if yours are like that, you can alter yours too. So I'll just get the wires separated a little bit again, and I'll continue to weave on these two inside bare wires. If you're watching this ahead, I don't really think you need to attach there. So if you're struggling it, just don't do it, and then just weave your bail, and then shape the twisted wire to live right beside. It'll be, stiff enough that it will stay in place, I believe. Plus, we're also going to be putting design and such in front of it, so. And across. You notice I'm holding each side down as I make my wraps for this bale. And as we get to the wide part, sometimes it wants to slide, up and forward on you. So it'll be important for you to hold each side down. It's kind of where to the twisted wire you can cheat a little bit. If you keep it right beside the weaves, I kind of, sometimes use them to help brace the side while I cross over with my wire. I'm showing you this weave in real time so that you see how slow of a bale weave this actually is. So, we see a lot of things sometimes on the, 4 times speed or 2 times speed to make things like this go faster. But in reality, even for me, even for most of us, this is a very slow process, this particular bale. So you just enjoy it. I think it's the most beautiful bale, but it takes a minute. And once you pass the most wide portion here in the middle of this bale, this weave is going to want to slip forward quite a bit. So just weave patiently and hold back each side with your thumbnail. And you're not really pulling tightly across. I actually make it almost a little bit extra loose. You see, it'll want to start to slide forward like this as you're working. So I hold that back, I pull this across. I do my 360 around this side. I hold this side. I go across. And I hold it down while I pull tight. And then, not super tight, but taut, so that it makes a nice straight line, but not tight enough that it pulls forward. So hold that. Hold it while I go across and then go under. Whoop. Then hold this side and go across. check the shape of your wires. Everything's looking good, so keep going. We're almost there, you guys. Hold this side down while we come across. Make the 360 on this side. Hold it down while I come across. Almost there, you guys. Just a few more. They might start to want to crisscross. Just keep them pinched back and make sure your bail stays in its nice, beautiful form. We only have a few more wraps to go, and then we'll shape the twisted wire and attach it here at the last few wraps. I'll do one more here. Actually, we'll do a few more. I'm still a little ways away. And you'll notice these wires are remaining straight. You're holding everything nicely. You're not munching it all up as you work. If your hands get tired and you need to put this down for a minute, then do that rather than, cramping up or anything. Right here, I'll just start to pull the weave down a little bit. And I'll do a few more, and then we'll shape and attach the twisted wire. Okay, so I think that's good there, and we'll start to attach. So look at your twisted wire. You might have to reshape it, like I do a little bit here. Get it laying side by side. If you're using square wire so they fit nicely together there, and this side too. And you can see the beautiful scallop on either side of the bail. And now with the wire, we'll just do 1/1 and basically, or you can do figure 8 and catch them both. Actually, we'll stay in figure 8. Let's just do that. So now with the wire underneath, we'll go around both of them. 1.5, pass through, wrap both of them, just like that, pass through, and just make 3 or 4 of these stitches. Let's make one more so that these wires stay together, just like that. Just make sure they're nice and straight, and we have a beautiful bail. Okay, so make sure you get your hands some rest at this point. That's been a lot of work. I'll remove this leading tail by just snipping it off right there. I'll make everything neat again. I gotta retap my neck wires here a little bit. And now we'll bend the bail back. Let me push the camera a little ways away so you can see better. You should be looking about like that, and we've got about maybe 8 inches left on the weaving wire. And we have a nice, beautiful bail. Alright, so in order to bend this weaved bail back, I like to use these dowels. You can use a wooden dowel, you can use your step plier. You want to basically get about 3 millimeter, so I'm going to pull this one. So you want the room in the bail to have, you want the bend in the bail to have enough room to pass chain or the clasp or a little line of beads. So usually about 3 millimeter is good. Hold everything at the neck and put a slight forward bend on that whole bail. Kind of looking like that. Take the dowel and situate it right at the widest part of the bail. Make sure your dowel is even across the bail there. I'm trying to stay in the camera here so you can see. Just like that. Hold on to your dowel and bend all 4 wires back and straight to the back of the pendant. The weave should be right about there, right where it meets your other wires. And you should have enough length These two wires become the wires that we wrap, that edge along the back. This beautiful edging comes from these two veil wires. So, but before we do that, we create all of the lovely curly works with these wires. So after you make this bend, I kind of just let the bail hang out there for a little bit. I don't, do anything more with it. I'm going to go ahead and detach my weaving wire just to keep everything neat and clean for you guys. Okay, so take these two and you'll just kind of slightly part them. It's okay to, move them around because we're going to have to come underneath them. Just try to keep them as nice and straight as you can while we work. You just leave them like that for now. Just kind of back along the back side of your pendant there. Okay? Probably going to have to raise them a little bit more actually, but for right now that's pretty good. Okay, so let's do our beautiful design work in the front. You're going to make sure that the bail is standing upright and that it's not listing to the left or to the back, because we don't actually have it fully attached yet. We only have it bent over. And we'll start with the first front wire. We want to make a nice big, let me show it to you. We want to make a nice big beautiful curve that comes over the bail and off towards the back. Okay, so we'll take this front wire and first we'll just raise it a little bit just by pushing it up till you get, about 3/4 of the way up your bail. I'm holding on to it here like this. I've got my finger on it like this. I'm just going to turn a curve in it with the pad of my finger. And you can see that I'm turning my pendant also to meet it. And I'll just use the pad of my finger and get a nice beautiful curve in the wire and let it slope off the side of the pendant here. Just like that. We'll refine these, so don't worry about it for now. Just get a beautiful, the tallest curve in the stack, so get that beautiful curve right there. Then we'll take the next one in line, and we're going to do the same thing but just a little bit lower. So we'll pull it forward, raise it up slightly, get our finger on it and hold on to it. Get the pad of your finger, push it forward. You can hold on, a little higher up here. And just use the pad of your finger to create a nice beautiful curve. And lay it down right next to the other one. So just a little below it and then right next to it. And the wires are just kind of sloping off to the side here for now. Across the middle of the neck and just off to the side. So now here's where we're going to have to raise these two back wires a little bit and get them out of our way. So just hold right here. Make sure you just make nice, elegant curves to neatly get them out of our way. Just raise the wires a little bit like that. And we'll do this third one now that comes from the shoulder. Pull it forward. And this one might be tight with your finger, so what I like to do is just get it kind of slanted upwards and then use your thumb right here. Hold it against the bail and use your other hand, and I kind of use my fingernail to make that little curve right there for me. Just like that. Push it back. So now we have 3 swooping wires here. I like it to go a little bit over the body, so Let's bring them back this way. Hold with your thumb here at the neck. And we're going to bring them back to the back one at a time, but you don't want to lose your shape here. So put your thumb right there and take the top wire and just turn it to the back. We're not pulling on our design here, so we're leaving the design in place. We're just bending the wire to the back. See, we might have to raise these two over here now to get them kind of out of your way. We'll bring them back down later when we weave them and attach them. Remember that those are your bail wires back there, so don't shift your bail too much, just get them out of the way so that we can start swinging these wires to the back of the pendant. Okay, so there's the first one. It's coming out right here, my shortest one. And now I'll take the next one, same thing, just hold on to everything and just come right next to the other one, to the back, and press it against the back of your pendant. Same thing with this third one. Just swing it below the other two. So you kind of have your wires nicely sloping off the shoulder here. So here's where we're going to do design, and it always turns out a little bit different because every back is a little bit different. But I'm going to take this lowest wire and I'm going to keep my thumb on it right here. I'm just going to bend it off in this direction. I'll take the next wire in line. My thumb is still here. You're not pulling on this wire, you're just making nice curves. Curve it down a little bit further. And same thing with this one. Put your thumb right here and just make a nice curve down the back. So here's where we'll start to cut and curl them. So for this first one, I always leave more because you can't put the wire back on after you cut it off, and you want to make sure that we have enough swirls and curls to cover the back, but we also get them from these additional wires from the bail. So I start with these three, and I'm going to snip it just right there. I'll use my round nose plier. I'll hold the curve right here. Hold the curve, get your round nose plier on it. And start a curl. So you're going to do a little spiral and drop it into this little space right here. So there's our first little one. And I wasn't pulling or pushing. You want to make sure that you maintain your beautiful front wires here and this nice curve. So the next wire, I'm just going to keep my thumb right there so that I don't alter anything in the front. I've got one curve going this way. I'm going to hold it right there and just back curve it. And I'll make another little spiral to go in that spot right there. Just cut it right there. And you do yours according to, what the back of your pendant has for space. I'm holding the curve here so that I have leverage on that end. And we can alter these curls, right? It's the very last thing that we do when we tie them all on. You want to make sure that, we've got them in beautiful flowy ways here. So this one now, I'm just going to hold it right here at the shoulder and bend it back. I'll cut it and do another little curl right there. The 2 wires that come from both sides of the bail, when they come down, you're going to bring them up and curl them in the bottom. So I keep these curls more to the upper half or upper 3/4. And I keep them a little bit bigger. So I'll hold this curve and pinch real tight at the end of my wire so I can turn it. And I'll just turn a nice spiral and let it live right there for now. Just like that. And they'll poke up a little bit because we still have to tie them down, so just be mindful of them. Look at the front, make sure that your beautiful graceful lines are still here. You can take, and I'm not gripping the wire because I don't want to leave any marks, but I'm just kind of pulling it forward and off of the bail a little bit for design. Be mindful that it's all connected to everything. So I've got my thumb here, I've got my hands on all the curls in the back, and all I'm doing is wedging these forward a little bit. I'm not gripping on them. Just make yours look beautiful. So 3 swooping beautiful little swooshes there. Okay, so now we'll go to the opposite side and we'll do these 3 wires over here. And each time we do this, you know, it'll turn out a little bit different because every pendant is slightly different. Okay, so I'll take my first wire, I'll raise it just a little bit, and I'm going to bring it just forward this time and towards this side. So right here I'm just going to use my thumb, kind of make a bend forward, and I'm just doing a slight push, so similar to this side but more forward, not so sideways, because we want the wire, see, I just bent it forward. I want the wire sloping off to the right hand side, and I'm just bringing it right over the other ones, or right next to them I should say. Kind of looks like that. If your loop is real thick, you can take your plier, your flat nose, and very gently get on both sides of the wire and very gently squeeze it a little bit to slim it up a little bit. This wire now, once you get it sloped and the way you want it, you'll put your hand right here, your thumb right here, and we're just going to swing it back onto the body of the pendant. And now that we've got a nice little curve on it that goes next to the other wires, and we'll swing it in this way, you know, off to this direction. I'm probably at the upper third of my stone, so I'll hold it right there and I'll swing it back onto the body of my stone, and I'll make a little curl right there. Make a very clean cut. Be very careful not to scratch the top of your stone. Get your round nose pliers. I'm not actually turning the wire on my stone. You're turning the wire above your stone. So if you don't feel like you can do that safely, then you can slip a piece of paper in between your stone and your wire. Just a little scratch piece of paper or you know, a surface, a business card or something that you can brace up against. So you see I'm turning, I'm holding my curve so that I have leverage. So I'm holding on to the curve where I have leverage. I'm getting my plier on my wire but not on my stone. And I'm turning a nice curve. I'm going to re-grip just so you can see. And we'll make small adjustments once we have them all curled out. There's my first one. For my stone, it fits nicely. I can tie it right here to this side. Now we'll take the next wire on the shoulder, and we're going to kind of do the same thing, but a little bit lower. So we'll raise it slightly, bring it forward, just slightly under the previous one. Take your finger and just put a bend on it. Bring it right next to the other wire. And it's okay if it goes above it a little bit too. It doesn't have to be side by side because we're going to tie, it's kind of like a little bow tie here. We'll tie them all together. But you want to get it next to this other one, best, you know, kind of like that, so that you can curl into that space, curve into that space. And you can either, you know, go back around and come this way, or you can take a little back curl right there. We still have one more design wire to go, so I think I'm going to actually take this and go down the body a little bit. Always better to leave longer strands because we can cut those up and go shorter if we need to, but if you cut it here and then wish you had it later, you know, then you don't. So I'll use this right here. I'll put my thumb right here and kind of just curl back along the body, just mimicking the previous curl, and I really actually love the way that's looking. I'll just come straight across the body. I'll clip it right here and make a back curl. So I've just cut that wire off. Once again, I'm holding the curve so I have leverage. I'm going to take my round nose plier onto the end of my wire very confidently, but not on my stone at all. Start that bend. I've got everything held right there so it doesn't move. And you'll just make a tiny little back curl into that space. I love how that looks. I'm going to curl it up just slightly more. Just like that. I think that's beautiful. You can tie all that right there and then onto the side of the frame. I'm going to bring this up slightly more. Okay, happy with that. Woo! Alright, you guys, one more wire, one more shoulder wire, and then pretty much design, you know, will be done except for tying it all down. Okay, so now this one on the shoulder here, same thing, will come below, so you have like a cascade, you know, of 3. Make sure you're below the previous one. Push forward a little bit. And this one, I'm going to make a spiral to fill this spot right here. So I'm just going to bend it forward. Make sure you got a little curve on it there. Push it into place. Get a nice curve on it. Put it right next to the other ones. And right here now, if you want to either use your nail or you can use a plier, but you can turn them, turn that little one out, make sure you can see them a little bit. And we'll come back through and adjust again. So I've got my length, and now I'll come through and cut. Take my round nose plier. I'm holding this curve so I have leverage on the turn. And I'm just going to turn a spiral into that space. Just like that. That's gorgeous. I love how that turned out. So now I'm going to go back through and check my little, actually let's lay these wires down. So go back to your bail wires here in the back and very gently take the curve out of them and lay them down so that they slope off of the neck and kind of down here sloping to the side of the pendant. So just push them back. Just like that. We're gonna coil those and then shape them to the body. Look at how beautiful that's turning out. Woo! I love this one. Okay, so same thing on this side, just right here at the neck. Gently push the wire back into place. Let it slope off of your neck elegantly there. Keep them side by side. Okay, very nice. Oh my gosh, you guys. Woo! 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 I love how all that turned out. Okay, so if you need to narrow any of these up, get a wide plier and hold your spirals down and in place. Make sure you're on the front and back of the wire. Like this third one here is kind of wide. Very just whisper gently. Whisper gentle. Narrow it up a little bit and then come to the next one. If you need to. If you don't need to, don't do this. I feel like I need to just slightly. We want to make sure that all these wires kind of, cluster here in the middle so that we can tie them, or at least tie, I like to actually jump them. So I take the outermost one and I tie it to, one of these others, and I kind of pinch them together. But you have to kind of finagle and see what works with how yours laid themselves out. This is beautiful, and I like the lines here, so I may not stitch anything there. I might stitch it down here instead. So we'll see what I do here in a minute. Okay, so whew, you should be kind of looking like that. Take your time with your beautiful work. Take a break and make each move deliberate. We're almost finished. And I think she's beautiful so far. Alright, so before we coil these up along the back, we're going to tie all of these little bits down, or at least some of them, so that we can start to, make things a little more stable. So the first thing I'm going to do, I love the way this flows down the body, so I'm not going to shorten that up. I am just going to stitch Probably this intersection right here. Somehow I might negotiate this one curl up a little bit more. So I'll get 6 inches of 28 gauge weaving wire, and I will get my map pin out because that'll help us get underneath these side wires. If you don't know what a map pin looks like, it looks like this. It's not a needle. It has a little ball at the end, or sometimes they have a little butterfly or something to hold on to. And it's as thin as a needle, but this end gives you something to hold on to. So use a needle if you don't have a map pin, but if you have a map pin, that's best. Kind of get that handy. And we'll get 6 inches of 28 gauge weaving wire. Alright, so I've got 6 inches of 28 gauge weaving wire, and I'm going to attempt to attach these 2 curls here to the body of the frame. So I'll just make a 1-inch tail right there, and the first thing I'm going to do is just put a couple of wraps around both of these little spirals, and it'll be easy to do that because they're open right here on the body. So you should be able to squeeze your weaving wire right underneath both of them. So I've just made one wrap around both of these 2 little spiral heads, and I'll make a second one. I'm going to pull both sides of my weaving wire here to make sure that I've got a nice tight wrap there. And I'm going to use my chain nose pliers and just give them a little bit of a tap and bring them closer together. It's best to tie this wire off to this first body of frame wire by going underneath it versus going over it, so you don't have any stretch wire. I call that stretch wire when you're going over them like this. I don't think that looks as nice and clean, so we go underneath them, which is a little harder to do, but worth it. So this is a tight space to come underneath this wire. My 28 gauge won't be able to do it, so we take a map pin and we make the space. We just squeeze the map pin underneath there. Make sure that you don't scratch the surface of your gemstone. I just kind of brace it there like that. I'm going to push this spiral over a little bit so that I can get my wire underneath there, and I'm at an odd angle because I'm trying to stay in the camera for you, but you're basically going to take the short end of your wire and you'll go underneath that frame wire just like that. Get a nice pull on it, but don't pull anything out of shape. Get yourself right next to that frame wire. And I'm just going to make a couple of wraps. Oop. Just hold the frame wire down while you're wrapping so that you don't pull it up like I just did. Let me change this camera so you can get a better look. Okay, so I'm going to make one more wrap. We always want the wraps to look like they're deliberate and not just like they're utility, so I usually make more than one. So there's 2. you can do whatever's working for your frame and your pendant. I'm going to try to get one more with this one. Remember to keep your finger on that frame wire so that it doesn't pull forward, and don't impale yourself with your needle. Maybe I didn't need that third one. There it goes. Nice and clean right there. Go ahead and cut this off as deep into that little space as I can get. And now I'll wrap this second one right next to them. It's longer than I need, so I'm going to clip it so that I just have a couple of inches here. Okay, and that looks pretty good there, so I'm going to leave it. I'll clip this so that I have 3 coils right there on both sides. 3 over here and 3 on this side. Turn that little end underneath, get on top of it, and tap it underneath. Just like that. And you know, we probably don't need the map pin to tie this one, so I'll go ahead and slip it out. Make sure that you use your fingers and gently put your wires back into place neatly along the side of your pendant there, and that's a nice beautiful tie. We may not have to do anything across this neck. We might just have to catch this one. And I can put a bead ball in there too. A tiny little bead ball would be cute in there too. So I have a little munchy, you see how it's kind of munchy right there? So I just cheat and I get my cutters in there, take the very munchy tip of that off, and now you have a nice beautiful clean spiral. And I'll get a little bit of that scrap 28 that I just used, and I'll stitch this little intersection together. I just reduced that space, so I will get my map pin back in here. And I'm going to pull this back slightly so it doesn't overlap that wire and lays right next to it like that. Sometimes you need to put a little upturn on the bottom of the wire so that you can get it when it gets in there. Okay, get that first little inch. And hold on to it. Take the other half of your wire and make a couple of wraps right here. I'm going to make one more for a total of 3, so I'll use this leading one as my third wrap. Pull it tight, make sure there's no bubble there. cut it so that you have a couple of millimeter that you can turn it down and tap it into place. Just like that. And to get rid of this one, I'm going to break it off rather than cut it, since it's very tight and underneath. So I'll hold on to all of my wires. I'll make sure that I have pressure on the frame wire so that I don't pull it up. I'm going to give tension and I'm going to make big circles until that wire breaks underneath there. And then that one's good. I might have to fiddle that first one. It didn't quite get underneath there. But I think you guys, for you guys, you get the idea. I might have to rewrap that. We'll see. For now, I'm just going to leave it there. But you want to make sure that that's nice, you know, nice and tight. Okay, so for now, those are feeling pretty good. These are feeling pretty good up here. I don't feel like mine are going to move, so I might just burnish those and harden them so that they stay, so I don't have to take any wire across there. But you might have to put a couple of stitches right there on yours if you feel like they're going to shift or move. I'll show you this pendant here. You see I put a couple of ties, gathered up 2 or 3 of them right there at the top. I tied, you know, the long portion underneath, and I tied right there to keep these little curls in place. These are a little longer. This one will keep that there. This one will secure that one. And I really don't think these are going to shift. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to the back here, and we'll start to stitch a couple of these up. You know, I wait for these because we're going to coil down and then attach, you know, these to the body here, and then the remainder of this fills in the curls on the bottom space here. So I kind of don't tie these until I get these bottom curls done, because, you know, I might shift these depending on where these actually end up here at the bottom. So if you can work with these, you know, loose right now, then do that. I'm going to go ahead and have us start to coil these. So you'll get 1.5 feet of wire of 28 gauge for each side of these. So 1.5 feet of 28 gauge. Alright, so I've got a fresh 1.5 feet of 28 gauge. I'm just going to slip it into the space between these 4 wires. We're going to wrap 2 of them together, you know, we'll coil both of these together in just an overhanded coil. You could weave something if you want to. You can weave a pattern into them, like the modified sumac if you want to. For me, I'm just going to coil them. So you'll just work a simple coil, simple overhanded coil, being mindful of your fingers along your designs here. Don't crush anything as you're working. We're just holding on to everything, but we're not crushing everything. And we'll just coil until we make the length of the body. Once I get my coil about here, I'll start to curve the wire, because you'll want to attach the coil to the back of the frame. Like here, we'll coil to about midway, and then we'll attach to the frame. We'll coil some more, and then we'll attach to the frame. Okay, so that's kind of what we're doing here with this one now. It's extra work to do this along the back, but I do think it makes the pendant even more special and more beautiful, especially for these labradorite stones that are often finished on both sides. Moonstones, opals, they often have a backside that is finished and beautiful for the stone. So I like to give the customer a beautiful front and back side to the pendant when I have a stone that's finished on both sides, and that adds value. If you're selling these, obviously it shows the craftsmanship, but it also commands a little bit more money to have a beautifully, we call them reversible design, a reversible pendant, because it won't matter if this is in the front or if this is in the front. Obviously there's a front side, but even if it flips over, no one would be embarrassed to show this gorgeous back side of the pendant, and it shows off the other side of the stone as well. So these are still loose, and they're attached to your front design, so just be mindful of them. And you're just going to get, right up next to it, so meet the shape of your pendant frame, and your wire will just go over those little 3 right there. And you would think that I might, use this wire and tie all these up. I don't do that because then it kind of looks messy from the front side. I leave them independent. So I'm just going to keep coiling down these 2, and then I'll tie these in the back rather than using this same wire and trying to scale, all 5 of these wires together. If you're watching ahead, I think 1.5 feet is enough. This pendant was a little bit bigger, so hopefully 1.5 feet gets it for me. If yours is, a little bit bigger than this, you might pull 2 feet to make sure you have enough coil. And if we run out, it's okay. We just add a little more 28 gauge and continue to coil. You just want to make sure your coils look nice and that they're living side by side, and that this neck is, sloping along the shape of your pendant. You can take your flat nose pliers after a while, about 1 inch or so here, and I'll just gently tap everything, making sure that I don't have any bubbles in my wire, that I've got a nice beautiful coil. Yeah, you might take a little bit more, and it's okay because I'll just add more 28 gauge. So if you're watching ahead, instead of whatever footage I told you at the beginning, give another foot. If your stone is the same size as mine, it's going to take a little bit more. So we'll use this to attach, and then we'll add wire to go the distance. So right about here, when you're looking at it in the front, you want to make sure you see that little bit of coil that we're working on. But it needs to attach to this back frame wire. So when you bring it down and curve it, you want to make sure that your curve kind of matches the edge of that stone. but that it also curves out enough that you're going to be able to just barely see that little coiling, and I think that's beautiful. So right about here, I'll attach to that frame wire, and we'll get that mat pin out. Same maneuver. Slip underneath the frame. Make sure that you don't chip your stone while you're slipping underneath there. Secure that needle so that you don't impale yourself. And then use your wrap wire here to get attached to the frame. I wrap once, and then I turn it over and I make sure that I can still see my coiling, and that's a perfect line. That's why I have us put this wire as close to the stone edge as we can, so that when we attach we can see just a little bit of it, the coil work. I think that's beautiful. Alright, so we'll make 3 wraps here. Whoop. Sorry about the camera earthquake there. So there's one. If you want to tie that little spiral, if you're going to leave it right there, you can do that right now also. There's 2. I'm going to leave the spiral unattached right here. I'll tie it up maybe to this other spiral later on, but just to keep things neat along the edge of my pendant. Whoop. So I've got 3 wraps right there, and now I'll go back to coiling on just my 2 wires here. Pull the mat pin out. Make sure that this is laying against the frame nicely and that you still have a little space to work in here. And I'm about to run out of 28 gauge, so right about here, well, I'll go a little bit more actually, and then I'll start a new wire. I'll start a new length. I'll just let that hang out right there until I get my new length on there. And that looks nice and neat from the front. And I can see just my little edging, and we can scooch it a little bit later on too. So very nice. Okay, so I'm going to probably take another foot, maybe even a foot and a half, to make sure I make this distance. Alright, so I've got another 14 or so inches. I'll insert a leading 1 inch right there, and I'll just keep coiling my 2 wires here. And I'm going to attach again right about here. Just keep working yours. I'm going to keep these 2 wires nice and flush with the pendant while we're working. I'm holding my little pendant just like this, so I'm not crushing anything, but I've got control over these 2 wires here. my flat nose out and just give some little love taps right here. I'll go ahead and cut these off just to get them out of my way. Tap that little cut down so that it doesn't get away from us. Make sure to push the coils back so that we've got a nice line. Beautiful. Just keep working. Okay, so right about here I'm going to attach to the frame again. And if you don't need the mat pin, you can slip under there, then don't use it. Otherwise, get your mat pin there, get a little space that you can work in. Make the one tie and then turn your pendant over and make sure that you can see your edge. That looks really, really nice. So I'll go ahead and tie 2 more here. There's 3, and now I'm going to go ahead and keep wrapping along these 2. And right here I'll just stop right there. Take the mat pin out. Make sure that wire is laying on the side edge of your pendant. Just like that. That's beautiful. Just that little bit is all you need to see. And it really enhances the pendant quite a bit. Got beautiful ties back here, and we'll, finish tying these up once we finish coiling down this side, so that we know what we need, because we're going to make some extra curls, with this up here. I like to get them both down here and then fiddle all my curls back here. Okay? So get this side nice and neat again. You might as well go ahead and pull 2.5 feet. Unless you want to do it, 1.5 feet at a time, that's fine, whatever you feel. I'm going to go ahead and pull 2.5 or so feet of 28 gauge for my opposite side. Alright, so I've got a fresh 2.5 feet for my opposite side. I'm going to get rid of the leading tail from the other side. I'll go ahead and slip 1 inch up here. Get it as far up here as you can. And then start your coiling on this side. Just hold on to that little fragment. Get these 2 wires nice and side by side. And then we'll start to coil. I'll meet you right back here. I'm going to coil a little bit closer to my body because my arms are starting to feel it now. So I'll coil till about here, and I'll meet you when we attach right here. Okay, so I've coiled up to here, and now I'm going to go back to my trusted map pin. And I'll wedge a little space in this outside wire. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and curve my wires first. And that way it'll be a little easier for me. And maybe I don't need the map pin. Let's see. I definitely need the map pin. I do not like to struggle trying to get the weaving wire back underneath the frame. So I'll put the map pin back there. Again, be real careful that you're not impaling yourself with the map pin. Keep your wires neat. That little guy out of our way. There's 2. I'll make 1 more. Okay, and now I'll coil from here to here, and then I'll meet you right back here for the next attachment. Looks like I'm gonna run out of wire again. I guess I should have grabbed more like 3 feet. That's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna attach right here with my last little bit. Get my map pin in there, but out of my way. 2. There's 3 nice little wraps. Get the pin out of the way. And then I'll tighten these up. And then I've just got, just another inch or so. So I'll just use them. And wrap a few times. Oop. Just a few times right there, and then I'll call it done on this side, and we'll start curling these wires up. We're almost done, you guys. You've done a great job so far, hanging in there. This has been a big wrap. It's not incredibly difficult. It still qualifies as kind of a 101 because of the frame, but it's much fancier than we normally do. I'm gearing us up for holiday pendants. Okay, so we're attached. Let me cut this little fragment. Got some little fragment in there. And now we'll curl these bottom wires up, and then we'll make, the final ties and final touches onto our beautiful pendant. Make sure you can't feel that. And when we look at it from this side, we can see just the slight edging of our coil, and that's just beautiful. And if you feel like you need to see it a little bit more, gently push outward. Just gently, very gently. Push a little bit outward so that you push it more into the line of sight. Very gently, very gently. And that's lovely, just to see that little edge. Okay, so now we'll come back here and we'll finish our little curls. So I'm just leaving this guy on here for now, I don't know why, because I'm getting tired, so I'll take him off really quick just to keep everything clean. Okay, so we'll take these little wires now and we'll just curl them up and fill up the back side of our pendant here. So I'll take this one. I think I'm going to squeeze it right in there. What I do now is I just kind of look for, what I think might be pretty spots. We want to make sure we have coverage. So you want to make sure that this upper portion is covered. I might tie right there if I need to, or right there to hold those steady. And now I have all this space right here. I'll make a very sharp turn in this one. There's not going to be much left, so I don't usually cut any more off unless it's a smaller pendant, but I think I'm going to end up using all of this wire here. And I'll just curl that onto the body of this back of the stone there. We want to make sure that it doesn't take out the nice line of the pendant, so when you curl these back, just don't pull inward, don't pull your coil in, just turn them. And I'll make a nice little tiny one right here. And yours may or may not have, the same space in the back, so just do, there's no rhyme or reason to these curls, just pretty. Just make them pretty and elegant, and so that they touch each other in some kind of way so that we can tie them up together and secure the back side. So I just shrink them or grow them and make everything kind of fit here in the back. So I'll tie right there, I'll tie right there, tie right there. I might not tie that one at all because it's small, might not need to be tied. Okay, so I've done those two, and now I'll come do these two. There's not much space left, so I might just pull one up into this space and then put one over the ball. So I'll just turn this up this way. It'll be a very tiny one right there. I'm just using my chain nose pliers, gripping the end so I can get small tight turns. Right there, and then this last one, I'll just curl right over the ball right there. So I'll swing it this way. Cut it off right there. And then turn a curl back into the little space of the ball right there. And so now we'll just, make various stitches to make sure that you've got a nice, stable, frame back here and that none of these pop out. And you don't need to tie them all. Some of the super short ones, like that one, it's not going anywhere. So it's the longer ones that you want to concern yourself with. So I'm going to stitch these two. I'll probably stitch these two because it's got this long one right here. I might put a stitch right there, So we'll just see, possibly right there. So just go through yours. You want to focus on making sure that the long curves stay in place and that, that none of these can pull back and out. You want to also make sure that they're all laying against the back side of your pendant here. So once you get it all curled up, I lay everything down. Let me change my camera again for you. I lay everything down on the mat. I make sure I've got a nice line, and I very gently press the belly of your stone. Don't press so hard that you fracture your stone, but we just want to settle the pendant. Just give nice little gentle pushes downward to make sure it's laying level and that it looks the way you want it to look here along its edges. I love that. I absolutely love the back. Make sure that the bail and the neck is all upright and lovely, and it is. I think my neck has to go, my bail has to go that way slightly. Let me change the camera again. Beautiful. So I think I'm going to give this to you now. I'm just going to say lots of love and thank you. I'll let you watch me as I stitch a few of these up, and I look forward to seeing you in live stream. I hope you've enjoyed making Serenity Pendant. I call it Serenity because, sometimes you have to just give way to faith, and the curls will kind of do their own little business back here with your guidance. But, these will turn out different and unique every time, depending on the shape of your stone or depending on how you've, flipped the top over. So it's a wonderful design. I'm just going to use the little scraps that I've got here. It's a wonderful design for a lot of your oval stones. This will work also with teardrop stones. Back here will be difficult to tie because we have to get underneath these loops. But again, you have the little map pin that you can always use. You can also lift these spirals, up off the body themselves if you need to. So I'll just get a little 1 inch in there. I pull up and kind of lift the body. These are tight curves, so give yourself a little bit of a bend on the end of the wire. It helps you to get in here and tie these. And if you feel like you know, you want to tie these before you finish the whole thing, and you want to tie them somewhere earlier than this because you feel like you can get to them better, you know, then do that for you. I usually wait till the end because I like to see where all the curls are going to be. And then you just have a nice cup of tea and make these ties. This is probably the longest part of the day, is doing these little ties back here. But once you get the rhythm and pattern of this pendant down, I would say it would take you a couple of hours working straight through, maybe 3 at the most. So let me change my camera so you can see how we finish these. So I've got 2 stitches right there, and to get rid of the wire, I'm going to bring this top one over. I'll cut it up here, leaving just a millimeter or so that I can take the very end of that wire, turn the very tip so that you get a downward bend on it, and then come above it and tap on it, and it'll just slip underneath there for you. And you can't always get your plier underneath there. Sometimes you can, to give it a little more of a tap. Just like that. You know, this one you can try to break off. You have to hold your wraps to make sure that they don't come out. So give a little tension, big circles against the frame wire until it breaks, and it breaks very cleanly underneath there. Or you can cut it, but if you don't hold that, then sometimes you can pull this whole thing out, right? Pull those spirals out, pull your wraps out. So if you're going to break the wire, make sure you're really holding on to your little bits there. And so now I'll just go over here and wrap this little intersection, these two together here. So I can't wait to see you guys this weekend in membership live stream. We'll do a version of this pendant. We might do a more simple version of this pendant. Ooh. So see, I can't quite get underneath there, so I'm going to take my mat pin and just raise that spot slightly so that I can get underneath there. We've got a major thunder and lightning storm going on, so I'm trying to get this video done. I wasn't able to start recording until late this afternoon because we had just major lightning all morning, so I didn't have my computers on. So that's why we're a little bit late with this, a little bit later than I wanted to be, but that's okay. You'll still get it tonight. All right, you guys, I think you get the idea. Go and stitch yours up. I'll keep working on mine. Much love. Please remember to give me thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and enjoyed making Serenity Pendant. I hope it's not too much for you, but I really do think that this design is worth the time. It looks particularly beautiful in gold, and well, it looks gorgeous, I think, in all the metal. I love it in gold. I love it in copper as well. I'm not going to patina this pendant because I like the look. I'm starting to like the look of just bare copper, you guys. It looks like rose gold to me. So I'm not going to patina these. I'm just going to polish them out. I am going to be selling these pendants, so even though you're making it with me here on the video, this is still going to be part of my store inventory. I think these will be great sellers for us. And I hope you make a lot of them, and I hope you succeed with them. And I will finish doing my little ties, and then I'll give you the final picture here. I think we're going to move on to the bead ball in the front really quick so that you can get that done. If you want to add another bead ball to the front, the place I would put it would be right in there. We have this one there, or you can put a cascade of bead balls, you know, over the top. You can just do it, or do both, a cascade of little beads here and one in there, whichever you prefer. So just make your imagination and do yours the way you want. I'm going to tie my bead ball off to these two wires right here. So I'm going to make sure to just give a little pinch there. I'm going to dive a tiny bead ball and bring the wires to the back and tie off right there. So I don't know what size will fit there. I'm going to try maybe a 6 millimeter, maybe a 4 millimeter. We'll see what works in there. So I've decided to try a little gemstone in that spot because I don't think that a bead ball looks good in there. And I don't have my tiny bead balls because they're not here yet. Still waiting for them in the mail, so I can't do a little cascade. So I'm just going to do a little coil bezel around this tiny citrine gemstone I have. And see if I can get this little guy in there. So basically I just set up a simple spring coil bezel around a tiny gemstone here. And I'm going to point these wires to the back of the gem because I have those two back wires that I can tie off to. Let me get this one around here. I think I'm just going to point this one to the back as well, rather than try to loop around that. So I've got both of these little wires just kind of pointed to the back, and that's because I'm going to try to tie this on to those two little wires right there. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, I think I like this way better than a bead ball here because it was just an odd spot for a bead ball. I might trim that little spiral a little bit. We'll see. I'll fiddle mine. But just to let you finish your pendant, you can get a little gemstone set up in either midway station or just a little coil bezel like I did this one. I used 22 gauge wire, and this is a 4 millimeter gemstone. I'm going to get it securely into that spot right there, hold it in place, and then use these two wires. I might just go around the main frame because that's going to be super tight to get in there, but we'll see how I do. Yeah, I think for us we're just going to go around the main frame here. So get it real tight so that your gemstone is in place. I'm going to cut this to make it a little bit more manageable to work with. And I'm going to make a clean wrap right over this shoulder. And bring it back through that space right there. This is pretty big wire, so I think one nice clean wrap will look good and it won't be too offensive on the front, and then I'll jiggle this guy more into place. He feels pretty secure right there. Get that spiral a little more underneath him. And rather than cut that off, I think I'm just going to fold it in one more time right here. So I'll trim it off so that it lays down and the cut end will be inside and not visible. Just like that, nice and clean. 2 little wraps right there. Looks good on the shoulder. I might push that over just slightly. Ooh. Oh, I might have pushed it over too much. We'll see, I'll have to fiddle it now. There it goes. So I'll hold that in place. Make sure to get this wire nice and tight. Cut it short so that I can manage it. Wow, you guys, I said bye to you like 30 minutes ago and then kept working on this. Kept working on this thing. So I'll say my goodbyes again. I think we're going to call it a day with this one. My hands are about shot, so I'm not going to be able to do too much more, but I think that you have a nice, beautiful pendant. I love the way that little gemstone looks right there. And I think that you have a lot of room to be creative with this one. The spirals and curls will be unique each time. There we go. So beautiful and clean. I'm just going to do a little touch up here and there. With my plier to make that gemstone sit in there a little bit nicer. I think I'm going to tighten up this little spiral here and lower it slightly so that my gem has a little more space to breathe. But I think we're going to call that done, you guys. This is Serenity. I think she turned out beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this again for the second time. I'll say goodbye to you. And I look forward to seeing you this weekend at live stream. Please leave me comments. Let me know how you're feeling about her and about this whole project. And certainly if you make one, let me see your beautiful work. Tag me on social media. And lots of love, you guys. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you for the next one. Bye. So you guys, while I was fiddling to get this gemstone into its place here, it fell out of the cup. So what I thought was, rather than cutting all of this wire off, I just wanted to give you this idea. I'm going to dive a bead ball in there now, because now I do have a little spot that I can put a little bead ball in there. Oh, my hands are just shot, so I can't really do a whole lot more. But I wanted to show you, instead of taking all that coiled wire out, I went ahead and left the little coil in there to fill up the spot, and because it's tied off nicely, and you know, I let the gemstone fall out. I'm just gonna, you know, use 28 gauge, and I'm gonna stick that tiny little bead in there. So surprise, that's what I'm gonna do to mine. That's how we improvise when things like gemstones, tiny gemstones, don't work out for us. So I'll be right back with this whole thing finished and polished up, and my little bead ball in place after all. Woo! Okay, you guys, here she is, the finished, cleaned, and polished Serenity. She turned out beautifully. I'm super happy with her, and I still a little bit wet there from being cleaned off. But I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you make a lot of these. It got a little hairy with the with the bead ball turned gemstone turned back to bead ball, but it all worked out, and I think she looks just beautiful. All right, much love, you guys. We will see you for the next one. This one is the final goodbye on this project. Much love.